There are moments in Hollywood history when a single performance seems to capture the emotional pulse of an entire generation. For Ali MacGraw, that moment arrived with astonishing speed. One film, one role, and suddenly she was everywhere. On magazine covers, in conversations, in the hearts of millions. Her presence felt effortless, almost otherworldly, as if she had always belonged in that spotlight. But what made her rise so striking was not just her beauty or talent, it was how unprepared she was for the scale of it all. Fame didn't build gradually around her, it surged like a wave. And while the world celebrated her as a symbol of romance and grace, she was still learning who she was beneath it all. That disconnect between public adoration and private uncertainty would quietly shape much of her journey. Because when success comes before self-understanding, it often leaves behind questions that applause cannot answer. Before the spotlight, a search for identity. Long before Hollywood knew her name, Ali MacGraw was navigating a far more personal journey, one rooted in self-doubt and the search for belonging. Her early life wasn't defined by glamour, but by complexity. Growing up in an environment where emotional stability wasn't always guaranteed, she developed a sensitivity that later became part of her screen presence. Before acting, she worked in fashion, including a role at Vogue, where she observed beauty being shaped, packaged, and sold. It was an experience that offered insight into how appearances could define perception, sometimes at the cost of authenticity. When she transitioned into modeling and eventually acting, she carried both that awareness and a quiet vulnerability with her. These early experiences didn't just prepare her for fame, they also made her more susceptible to its pressures. Because when the world begins to define you before you fully defined yourself, it can feel like you're constantly trying to catch up with your own life. The film that changed everything. When Love Story premiered, it wasn't just a cinematic success, it became a cultural moment. Audiences connected deeply with its emotional honesty, and at the center of it all was Ali MacGraw. Her portrayal felt raw and genuine, resonating with viewers in a way that went beyond performance. Almost overnight, she became a symbol of love, loss, and quiet strength. But with that recognition came an expectation to remain that person forever. The industry didn't just celebrate her, it defined her. She was no longer simply an actress exploring roles. She became an image to preserve. And while the film opened doors, it also narrowed perceptions of who she could be. Success in this case came with a subtle cost. It offered admiration, but also limitation. Because when a single role becomes your identity in the public eye, it can be difficult to step beyond it and be seen as anything more. Fame as a double-edged experience. For many, fame is imagined as a reward. For Ali MacGraw, it quickly revealed itself as something more complicated. The attention was constant, the expectations relentless. Every appearance, every decision seemed to carry weight. What made it more challenging was how personal the attention felt. People didn't just admire her work, they projected their emotions onto her. She became a reflection of their own romantic ideals. While that connection was powerful, it also created distance between who she truly was and who people believed her to be. Over time, that gap can feel isolating. When admiration is tied to an image rather than a person, it becomes difficult to feel genuinely seen. And in that environment, maintaining a sense of self requires strength that few are prepared to summon so early in life. Love, partnership, and public expectations. As her career flourished, her personal life became equally visible. Her marriage to Robert Evans placed her at the center of Hollywood's social and creative circles. Together, they represented a kind of cinematic partnership. Two influential figures navigating success side by side. But relationships shaped under public attention often carry unique pressures. Expectations, both internal and external, can blur the line between genuine connection and performance. For Ali MacGraw, this period was not just about partnership, it was about balancing identity within that partnership. While the world admired their union, she was still trying to understand her own needs, her own voice, and sometimes, even in the presence of success and companionship, there can be an underlying sense that something essential is missing. A relationship that changed her direction. Her later relationship with Steve McQueen marked a turning point, both personally and professionally. McQueen was one of the most recognizable figures of his time, known for his intensity and charisma. Their connection drew attention immediately, becoming a subject of fascination. But beyond the headlines, it represented a shift in her life's direction. In choosing that relationship, Ali MacGraw made decisions that affected her career in profound ways. She stepped away from opportunities, prioritizing her personal life over professional momentum. It wasn't a simple choice. It reflected a deeper desire for connection and stability. Yet, as often happens, the reality of such decisions can differ from expectations. What begins as a search for closeness can sometimes lead to further distance from oneself, stepping away from the spotlight. At a time when her career could have expanded further, Ali MacGraw chose to step back. It wasn't a dramatic exit, but a gradual retreat. For someone so closely associated with visibility, this shift was significant. Walking away from the spotlight meant letting go of not just opportunities, but also identity as the public knew it. In an industry that constantly looks forward, stepping back can feel like disappearing. Yet, for her, it was also a way of reclaiming space. Space to think, to feel, to exist, without constant scrutiny. This period wasn't defined by headlines, but by introspection. And while the world moved on quickly, her journey during this time became more internal, more personal, and perhaps more meaningful than anything she had experienced before. Facing personal challenges quietly. Like many who experience intense public attention early in life, Ali MacGraw eventually faced personal struggles that were less visible but deeply significant. Without the structure of constant work or the distraction of public life, she was left to confront feelings she had long carried. These weren't dramatic moments for public consumption, but quiet, internal challenges. What made them difficult was not just their nature, but the contrast to the life she once lived. Moving from constant visibility to stillness can amplify self-reflection. Yet it is often in that stillness that real understanding begins. Her journey during this time was not about perfection or quick solutions. It was about slowly learning how to navigate her own thoughts and emotions with honesty. A turning point toward healing. At a certain point, Ali MacGraw made a conscious decision to focus on her well-being. This wasn't about reclaiming fame, but about reclaiming herself. It marked a shift from external validation to internal understanding. Healing, in her case, was not instant or dramatic. It was gradual, built through reflection, support, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. What makes such turning points meaningful is not their visibility, but their sincerity. Choosing to step into a process of healing requires courage, especially after years of living under public scrutiny. It's a decision to prioritize authenticity over expectation and growth over image. A new life, away from Hollywood. Eventually, Ali MacGraw chose a life far removed from the traditional path of Hollywood. Relocating to Santa Fe, she embraced a quieter, more grounded lifestyle. The change wasn't just geographical, it was philosophical. In Santa Fe, life moved at a different pace. It offered space for reflection, creativity, and connection to nature. Without the constant pursuit of public attention, she could explore interests that were deeply personal rather than professionally driven. This environment allowed her to redefine success, not as recognition or visibility, but as peace and balance. It was a deliberate choice, one that reflected a deeper understanding of what truly mattered to her. A legacy that feels human. In the end, what makes Ali MacGraw's story resonate is its humanity. It's not a simple tale of success or struggle, but a layered journey that reflects both. Her life reminds us that behind every public image is a private reality, one that deserves understanding and compassion. While the world may remember her for a single role, her true legacy lies in the way she navigated everything that followed. Not perfectly, not without difficulty, but with honesty. And sometimes, that kind of truth leaves a deeper impression than any performance ever could.